Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here, President of Thrive Today, and I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. I'm really excited about today's topic because, friends, the good stuff can spread. That's right, the good stuff can spread. So, what we're going to look at today is how to use relational skills with our adult children. That's right. A lot of people learn relational skills later in life where their little ones are no longer little, they're grown up, they're adults. And a lot of people are really curious about how do I help spread relational skills when my children are already grown. So this is one of those topics I think is going to speak to a lot of people. And friends, we have a special guest. And our special guest is the Thrive trainer, Pam Bryan. And Pam is someone, along with her husband Dana, have been learning and spreading and practicing relational skills for a number of years now. There are track one trainers that thrive. And you know what? Track one is a hard track to train because that's often the largest track that comes to thrive. And it's people who come with a bonded partner. And it's usually they're new. This is all new for them. They're not quite sure what they're getting into. And this track is not easy to lead. And you know what? Pam and Dana have been able to ride this bull, so to speak. They've been able to effectively train others in relational skills. But one of the best things about learning and growing relational skills is we have the opportunity to spread the good stuff with our family, with our loved ones, and in our community. Let's listen to Pam and what she has to say about a moment she was able to practice relational skills with her son.
Hi, I'm Pam Bryan. I want to tell you a story called Quieting on the Stairs. It's a story about our son, our oldest son, who came home to Charlotte from DC last year, lived with us for a short while before he found his own place. And one day came out of a room upstairs with his computer in his hand. And I could see clearly that he wasn't happy about what he was reading on the computer. I was going up the stairs. He came towards the top of the stairs and started down, and I was calculating, let's see, is this something he wants to be alone with? Is he going downstairs to talk to his dad? What is it? And so I just kind of kept going, not want to interrupt. And he said, no, wait, please don't go. I'm trying to quiet, and I need someone to be with me. Oh, my heart was so happy that I was on those stairs in that moment for him in his life. And I just stopped. And I faced him and said, oh, Nathan, I'm so sad. His face was telling me everything I needed to know. Oh, and we just kind of took a deep breath. And he started processing a little bit, letting me know what it was about. And I just listened. I just listened and looked at him with eyes of love and compassion as he sort of was wrestling with, trying to figure out what had gone on, why this email came. It was really big, and it was hard for him to hear. But in that moment, I was so proud of him because clearly he had been practicing quieting in the little times. I call them the nothing times, when they're just an annoyance, or you just, stubbed your toe, it's annoying, and okay, I need to quiet and not be angry about this. Well, this was a big deal, but clearly he had known enough that the idea of quieting, and not only that, but having someone to quiet with him, just sort of bubbled out, and he was saying what he needed. And I was so glad that he'd gotten that from his discipleship group with his dad, and hopefully from the modeling that we had done at home. It was a time for him to just kind of catch his breath, get rebalanced, calm himself, quiet, and remember what's true about himself and his identity. In a few moments, in his time, he had a measure of peace, and he was able to go back upstairs and do what he needed to do in answering the email. So that's my story, quieting on the stairs.
All right, friends. Wasn't that something? I mean, that was really encouraging and inspiring to hear from Pam on how she recognized her son's need for some quieting. She saw that something was going on. She recognized in his face, probably his demeanor, that something's needed. And amazingly, her son even knew what he needed. He recognized he needed some quiet. And so Pam was going to give him space, but he actually asked for help. So he recognized his need for some quieting. This is a big deal. So I loved how Pam put it, that she responded to her son's distress with eyes of love and compassion. Wow, eyes of love and compassion. When we see eyes of love and compassion, that is an invitation for connection. That is an expression of our love and our care and our compassion. In a sense, it's letting Jesus share our face, as Jim Wilder would put it. So, eyes of love and compassion. And friends, when we let Jesus live in our face and we share our face with Jesus, every human brain looks at a face and wants to know what's happening on that face. And so, what inspired me as well from this example is Pam's son knew that he needed some quiet. And he had some context for this because he's part of a group that Pam mentioned with his father Dana, and they've been learning and practicing relational skills. So her son had a language. He knew enough to know he needed some quieting, and the beauty of what Pam did here is that she created connection and engagement so that her son would not feel alone in the distress that he was dealing with. And so he had observed Pam and Dana practicing relational skills, talking about relational skills, living with relational skills. And then Pam recognized the difference in her son that the quieting made. This was a turning point for him. He needed a breather. He needed someone to be with him and create the safety for him to catch his breath. Friends, that's relational skills. That's a beautiful illustration of how relational skills can show up, especially in those hard times. And this story reminds me a little bit of Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well, right? Jesus encountered this woman. He knew what she needed. And this connection made an impact because eventually the community and the townsfolk come out to interact with Jesus. So Jesus knew what was needed. He was in tune with the Father's heart. And friends, learning relational skills mean that we start to learn and observe what's needed when, and we interact with the living God for inspiration and guidance. So, as we think about what we can learn here and some of the takeaways, first of all, relational skills have to be practiced in your own life. Like we have to practice these skills, take the time, interact with the living God, interact with family, friends, small groups, people who also want to grow in their lives. These skills become part of the fabric of your character. If you have the skills or you're at least learning and practicing them, they show up in the hour of need. And that's just a great thing that Pam did. She'd been practicing relational skills now for a number of years. And relational skills create meaningful connections where people do feel seen, heard, and understood, but they also feel safe with us to let their guard down. And so it took a lot of humility for Pam's son to be able to even ask for help. And Pam was able to remain tender in that moment. And friends, as we're tender with the weaknesses of other people, what happened is these become ripe opportunities and moments where good things begin to grow. So, friends, in our show notes, we have some links here. One of the great resources that you can do, or what Marcus Warner and I created, called the 28 Days of Joy. These are free exercises you can practice on your own. You can practice with a spouse, friends, prayer partners, coworkers, colleagues, small groups. You can do these practices, and they're so simple, but yes, they're so helpful. And you can learn more about our foundational 5 skills as well. We have these foundational skills to help people grow capacity. And one of those foundational 5 skills is the quieting skill that Pam shared with us today. Friends, a little bit of practice goes a long way.